Welcome to EPG Pathshala. My name is Purendra Prasad. I am professor in the Department of Sociology. Today we are going to talk about a module, Unani System of Medicine. This module is part of Sociology of Health, where we try and talk about different systems of medicine. When you talk about Unani medicine, which was very popular in the colonial and pre-colonial period, and it has undergone various shifts in its development and knowledge production. What is Unani Tib? Unani actually is traced to the Greece. It is also called Greek medicine. So, it comes from a word called Ioni, which means origin of Greece, and Tib actually is medicine. So, Unani medicine actually is a kind of a Greek and Greco-Roman medicine. In fact, Unani medicine has developed its content, materia medica, from Egypt, Syria, Turkey, Iran, and several of those Arab countries. And Unani Tib has its own philosophy, its own epistemology, it has its own medical kind of a theory. As all of us know, Unani medicine is one of the earliest forms of medical systems known in the world, like that of Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, Egyptian medicine. Unani also is a very popular medicine which actually has been developed from different countries and different kind of ideas that are derived at different points of time. And therefore, sociologists actually talk about how Unani medicine is plural in its origin itself. So, it's actually evolved from various historical and material conditions that are actually produced according to the needs of the people in different countries. So, if you go back to its philosophical tradition, the origin of Unani medicine in its philosophy is traced to Hippocrates, and later it was the philosopher like Galen or Galenic kind of a medicine, where he provided the basis for the development of Unani medicine. And Unani medicine had its own epistemology, meaning that it had its own knowledge base. Okay. How did it actually, how does the Unani medicine conceive a particular human body, and what are its notions of health, hygiene, illness, etc. Like Ayurveda, Unani medicine also believes in the bodily equilibrium, and it believes that it is the four humorals which actually contribute to the disease production. In fact, a lot of incorporation of knowledge system also took place from Chinese system of medicine. If you look at the way a lot of emphasis is given to pulse exposition, or to urine and stool examination. Pulse exposition is primarily in terms of understanding the bodily temperature. Urine and stool examination is primarily to understand the problems in terms of kidney, liver, and other organs. And hence it believes that there is a very specific method to understand how diseases actually are produced. Like allopathic medicine, it does not actually believe that it is the germ, or what allopathic medicine actually relies on a germ theory, Unani medicine does not believe in the contribution of germs to causation of illnesses. This medical knowledge system says that the effects of germs and the toxins that these germs actually produce on the human bodies actually would be responsible. So, they again talk about incorporation of ecological, the other kind of material conditions. It also talks about socio-psychological kind of processes. And therefore, when you look at Unani system of medical knowledge, there is a very distinct philosophical, theoretical kind of a framework. While the Western medicine, or what we call today allopathic medicine, actually is only 150-year-old, the Unani medicine actually is hundreds and hundreds of years old. And this medical knowledge system actually has not only incorporated ideas from different countries, but when it actually was established in the Indian context, it actually see a sea change in terms of its scope, its knowledge base, and how it produced different set of conditions. So, if you look at the Indian context, it is during the Mughal period where Unani medicine was actually very popular. It received the state patronage. The Mughal rulers actually patronized the Arabic medicine. However, the Mughal rulers were also very secular. They did not actually incorporate any religious or any other dimension into the Unani medicine, because they believed that Unani medicine is a scientific medical knowledge system. And therefore, a lot of patronage that Muslim rulers gave did not automatically give a kind of a religious tinge to Unani medicine. It did not. In fact, there was a lot of native kind of medical knowledge system which actually contributed to strengthening of Unani Tibb system in the Indian context. So, Mughal rulers actually encouraged both Unani medicine on the one hand and Ayurvedic medicine on the other hand. When they established the hospitals, whether it is in Hyderabad, in Lucknow, Muzaffarpur, or in different parts of the country, a lot of interaction between Ayurvedic medical practitioners and Unani medical practitioners was actually seen, and therefore, there was integration of ideas from Ayurveda into Unani system of medicine. Nizam rulers actually were also impressed with various materia medica that was actually produced during the 13th to 14th centuries. So, a lot of medical research actually was also sponsored, supported, and lot of these individual practitioners who are called as Hakims were the official medical doctors for most of these rulers. So, again the point that David Hardiman was trying to say, Unani medicine also was a text based institutionalized medical system which was established. It had its own hospitals, its own clinics, individual practitioners actually were respected, they are high social status, they actually cared more for the rulers and the affordable sections of the population. So, there was a class bias. One is not saying that Unani medicine was actually accessible to all the masses at that point of time. It had a class background, but the kind of knowledge system that was developed was largely a secular phenomena. It is a different matter that over a period of time religion and religious doctrines also got actually imbibed, and today in a very stereotypical notion and popular notions, people perceive that Unani medicine actually is Islamic medicine, while in its origin, in its theory, in its philosophies, in its epistemology, it's never actually a religious or religio-magical kind of a system of medicine. So that's one point that I think Unani medical system actually reveals, which is important for sociologists to understand how Unani medicine actually, evolved historically. What was the socio-cultural and political context in which a medical knowledge system actually emerged and contributed to the healthy society. Second important dimension, moving from the Mughal period to the colonial period, when the British actually arrived and colonial medicine was trying to establish its own hegemony and dominance over the colonies. So the Western medicine tried to establish its supremacy over both the Unani and Ayurvedic medicine. And the colonial state to a large extent actually patronized the allopathic medicine and started actually treating other Indian systems of medicine, which Unani system also became one of the native systems of medicine, was actually seen was given a secondary status. So if you carefully look at the historical documents, it is quite evident that the supremacy of the colonial medicine emanated from the British state actually giving singular kind of a patronage to the allopathic medical knowledge. It's a different matter, of course. Again, within India there are different princely states, and if you look at Hyderabad kind of a princely state, where Nizam rulers actually were allies of the British and they were actually the rulers here. So there was much more flexibility and freedom for the Hyderabad state to actually patronize the Unani system compared to other regions. But that does not mean that there was absolute patronage. The Western medicine actually gained its ascendancy. Okay. So that is one important dimension where over a period of time during 150 years of British rule, that the Unani Tib and the Ayurveda actually were subjugated, and they actually became marginal, and their own kind of development of knowledge actually became much slower, and that actually provided the decline of a particular knowledge system in the Indian context. But in post-independent India, immediately after independence, when allopathic medicine actually became the only official kind of a medical knowledge system, the Unani and Ayurveda actually were seen as alternative systems and native systems of medicine, which were actually sparingly supported in different pockets. So there was no pan-Indian level of support that these systems of knowledge actually had. Therefore, it had much less kind of a importance and significance. But in some of these princely states like Hyderabad, actually you have these very well established Unani hospital in Charminar. You have what is called as Center for Comparative Research in Unani and Homeopathy. So a medical council actually was established. Drugs and pharmaceuticals actually were supported, where in some pockets of Hyderabad actually the drug production actually takes place. So the importance of the method to diagnose, to understand, to conceptualize bodily ailments still actually prevails even today. So if you go to the contemporary Unani hospital in Charminar today, you still find the significance of Turkish bath, massaging, and certain kind of procedures which were all actually done. Okay. So, what happens is selectively certain diseases seem to have actually been the fortes or a domain for the Unani medicine, and therefore, certain population in and around the princely state, Hyderabad state, where you have not only Telangana, but also from Karnataka and Maharashtra, a lot of population even today actually rely on the Unani system of medicine here. So, gradually if you look at the Indian post-independent period, Unani medicine actually its importance actually declined, but after 2000, when Indian state again established what is called as Ayush, that Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, Siddha and Homeopathy, where the significance of Unani was recognized. But in what sense? Do you mean to say that by 2000 Indian state brought back the emphasis of Unani medicine? Not really. Commercial dimensions of Unani system was actually privileged. The possibility of packaging, standardizing and developing a pharmacopoeia which can be marketed both in the Indian and the Western kind of a market were selectively patronized. So, today Unani medicine is actually patronized only where there is possibility of standardization, where the pharmacopoeia actually is useful for allopathic medicine to appropriate. Otherwise, Unani medicine actually is not patronized, or it is actually given due significance. So, it is important for sociologists to understand how native systems of medicine coexist. What do we mean by medical pluralism? Is it coexistence of different systems of medicine on equal kind of basis? Did Unani, Ayurveda, allopathy exist on equal terms? Do each system of medicine actually recognize its own epistemology, philosophy? Not really. The alternative systems like Unani and Ayurveda are supposed to comply with the dominant parameters of measurement, efficacy, quality of the allopathic drugs and the practices. And therefore, what you find today is that a lot of individual Unani medical practitioners have also adapted allopathic medicine into their practice. So, what they do is they try and use mixed methods, where it is required they also use allopathic medicine, where they think that allopathic medicine is not so effective, they fall back on Unani medicine. So, there is a combination. So, if you have to understand this plurality, the diversity and marginality that actually goes on in a particular system of knowledge, it is important to understand Unani system of medicine. Yeah, Unani medicine also needs to be understood from the dimension of language. It is also called actually a Persian kind of medicine, because a lot of Unani texts are available in Persian, Urdu, Hindi and Turkish and other kind of languages. So, what happens is a lot of translation from different kind of languages also distorts, or probably the central kind of a meaning actually is not interpreted properly. So, there are a lot of inherent kind of problems in adapting or in actually contextualizing. Okay. So, this is the point I was trying to indicate. In its historical evolution during pre-colonial, during colonial period, during post-independent period, Unani medicine actually gained from different knowledge systems, different kind of cultures, different kind of pharmacopoeia that it actually was trying to interact. The patient pool actually also is very important in terms of contributing to what is more popular, what is being accepted as very efficient and quality, high quality. So all these things played a very important role in contributing to the Unani medical knowledge system and contextualizing it. The second dimension also is in terms of commodification of the Unani medicine. In fact, Hamdard company has 70% of the share in terms of the Unani drugs and medicines production in India. Okay. A lot of Unani, the drugs by Hamdard actually exports to countries in the Middle East, Far East and Arabic countries, United States of America, Russia and several countries where there is high demand, and therefore Hamdard actually has developed a huge research base in India to ensure that these medical products which can be produced on a mass scale. Okay. So you could say that it's good that Unani medicine is actually being now getting repopularized because there is demand in different countries and therefore it is being repopularized. But the catch there is that when you are trying to produce and standardize, a lot of uniqueness and specificity of these medicines actually is lost. So Unani medicine actually also believes that a lot of the family and their unique kind of living conditions need to be understood by the Hakims before the medicines are actually prescribed. Okay. Now with the standardization, okay, it becomes a kind of thing that's being applied universally. So the effect of it will be very less. But what market forces do is that it actually sells these Unani products saying that it has no side effects, it's very safe kind of a thing. It also market forces sell in the name of food rather than in the name of medicine. Okay. So if it is being actually packaged as food, it need not go through the rigorous kind of a drug control authority from the US and other European countries. So while food, it has a lot of acceptability, and therefore today you find a lot of cosmetic stores in different metropolitan and urban centers actually sell the Unani products. Okay. While if you look at cities like Hyderabad, Lucknow, a lot of Muslim communities actually buy a lot of Unani products, which include 70 to 80% of them actually in the form of food and powder in the provisional stores and in the local markets. Okay. There is no prescription, it is popular, it is widely actually accepted by different kind of consumers. So you have a different dynamic. We are talking about Unani as a medical knowledge system which has actually contributed to a different set of remedies. Okay. It starts from home remedies to that of individual practitioners to a large hospitals, and today in terms of very, very corporatized Unani kind of medical systems. So that's the evolution in which I think we need to understand, situate, contextualize the Unani system of medicine. Let me now sum up Unani medical knowledge system. Sociologists actually need to understand how some of these native systems of medicine like Unani actually developed in the Indian context, what are called as Arab system, Persian system or the Greco-Roman system, which was actually originally came from Arab countries, but how different ruling classes starting from the Mughal rulers to the colonial rulers to the post-independent Indian state and some of the individual patronizers, actually how they contributed to the development and production of knowledge. Second, in terms of institutional practices, Unani medicine actually, grew along with the other systems of knowledge like Ayurveda and Chinese medicine and Siddha medicine and a whole range of other medical knowledge systems, including allopathic medical knowledge system. So, the origin of any medical knowledge system cannot be traced to unilinear kind of development. There are multiple kind of conditions and forces that actually shape and how and why a particular form of knowledge system is more accepted at a point of time, why it actually it has less kind of a acceptability and the social value attributed to it is a huge sociological kind of a question. I hope you will try and understand a comparative perspective of these native systems of knowledge, so that I think it helps us to arrive at a broader framework within sociology of health. Thank you.